Okay. So the problem is, given this problem, how to calculate the nodal displacements, because of this influence others, right? This will have its joints will have displacement. And then please calculate the internal member axial force is if have, and also the support reactions. That's the problem. Okay, let's go. We can choose either using directrix method with removing all the support first. That's I call the directrix method with post imposition of the boundary conditions, or alternatively and better, I think, to choose the directrix method a priori position boundary condition at this procedure at the likely we don't remove the spots. This better because for this structures, if you remove, imagine how big the matrix will be. Okay, it's too big because it's not has 3 degrees freedom for 3D truss. So it's not a good option, I think, to choose the SMP for manual calculation. Of course, if you use a program MATLAB, no problem. But if you do manual calculation, it's a nightmare. It's horrible, right? So because I want to show you the manual calculation, I choose the SMA. But the SMP will work either the same, okay? Actually the same. Okay, for the SMA, it means we put the spot here, don't move them. We should divide the degrees of freedom into 2. So the red one, active, right? 1, 2. This is inactive. I use blue color. So inactive or passive 1. Okay. And then at node 2, uh, the numbering goes like this. Let's from active first. 1, 2, and from the lowest number. 1, 2, and then here no active, here active 3, and then here all active 4, 5, 6. While the numbering system for inactive or passive degrees of freedom from the lowest number P1, P2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there are 6 active degrees freedom and 6 inactive degrees freedom. Okay, 6 and 6. Well, usually I define the local coordinate system from lowest number to highest number. This is 1, 2, this is 3. So this is 3, right? From 1 to here, not from 3 to 1. Usually I do like that. But of course, you can define from 3 to 1, no problem. As well as long as you be consistent with that one. This is and then 1, 4, 2, 4, 3, 5. Okay. Once you have give the labels for the degrees freedom, you can, this is the global degrees freedom, right? You can connect them to local degrees freedom. Use the information of the connection or mapping between global and local coordinates is given in the MCOT matrix, right? So this is for each element number 1 to 6, because we have 6 elements. And then this is local degrees freedom. So this is, recall that this is element numbers. These are element numbers. While this one are what? Local degrees of freedom numbers. So this is the connection. So for element 1, this is we only consider if MCOT for active only. Of course, we can later we should also consider for inactive. Okay, but later we first for active degrees freedom. So for element number 1, this one, Which one the active? Okay, we have local in here, 1, 2, 3. We have local in here, 4, 5, 6. So it's connected to 1, 2 active, while the rest are inactive, right? Is it clear? Any questions up to this point? Okay, move to element number 2. Inactive or for node 2 here, the first 3 is referred to the first node, and then this one beginning from X, okay, this is 1, 2, 3. So the first one is 3. Element number 3, beginning from here, 1, 2. So this is 1, 2, 0, and to here. In X direction, Y direction, Z direction. So this is this one. Element number 4 is 1, 2, and 1, 2, 1, 0, 2. Element number 1, 1, 2, 0 in the X, Y, and this is 0, and 4, 5, 6. Element number 4, all 0 here. Number 6, 5, number 5, number 6, this one, and to this one. Any questions regarding MCOT?
Sir, I want to ask something.
This step is very important. Yes, what's your question is?
The direction of the degree of freedom of the members, is it
What your question about global or local?
the global?
The global
like,
one is
yeah.
the numbering goes like this. First in the X direction, this one, X. We use the coordinate system. We use the right hand rule, right? This is from X to Y to Z like this, and then X. This is 1, 2, and then 3. Okay. X is 1,
yes.
Y is 2, Z is 3.
What I want to ask you is
Can you talk more loudly because I cannot hear clearly?
okay, sir, can I speak in bahasa?
Yes, please.
Itu arah dari degree of freedom-nya seperti di member yang pertama yang di X1 itu.
The first member, yes.
Ya, itu apakah boleh jika kita arahkan dari node 2 ke node yang pertama sesuai
Oh, it means you define the local coordinate system
yes.
conversely. Of course you can. You can, but this is for computer programming. Recall that finite element is directed toward finite computer applications. For computer applications, you have to have a systematic way. So for systematic way, I always begin from lowest number to highest number. Of course, you can choose, for example, the local coordinate like this. Okay, if you want, okay, you can. This is local coordinate for element number 1. Okay, this is I choose this one. So if you choose like this, you can begin from here, 0, 0, 0, and then 1, 2, 0. Okay. Is this answer your question?
Ya, berarti node yang awalnya tuh pada umumnya selalu yang lebih kecil ya, sir ya?
In my program, computer program, yes, like that. It begins from the lowest number to highest number. It's always like that. If you use SAP 2000, it's also like that. SAP 2000 have numbering system, right? And then it goes from lowest number to highest number.
Baik, sir. Terima kasih.
Any other questions? So actually it's free if you compute manually and it's not intended for computer programming. It's free to choose to establish or to set up the local coordinate system. It's up to you. But here I use from lowest number to highest number in order for a systematic way to make a computer program later. Okay, just like SAP 2000. or ETABS or other programs. That's all based on finite element, right? How did they make the program? Of course, they have a systematic way to do that. Okay. Okay. No more questions. This is very important because if you make mistake here and then the rest will also wrong. So don't make mistake here. Okay. Well, after you write down the MCOT matrix, the next step is, of course, to calculate the stiffness matrix, the stiffness matrices for each element, the stiffness matrix of element 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. I will not discuss again because I have discussed it before mid-semester term. Okay. Basically, you have to, for calculating the stiffness matrix for each element in 3D space, you have to calculate the direction cosines, right? Cx, Cy, Cz, direction cosines. The easiest way to calculate the direction cosines is to form a vector, 3D vector. Because, for example, I want to know the direction cosines of this. First, we construct a vector from node 1 to number 4 following this direction, okay? And then let's say the vector is vector V4, okay? How did I construct? Of course, I construct from the coordinates of node 4 minus coordinates of x1, right? This is xyz of 4, this is xyz of node 1. And then after that, I calculate the unit vector. You know unit vector? This is actually in mathematics. Unit vector is a vector that whose length is 1. So I use the notation like this. Hat, it means unit vector. Unit vector for this one is just its vector and then divided by its length. Okay, its length. Okay, and then from here you can read the direction cosines. That's Cx, Cy, Cz. And then if you know this, I think you can plug in into the formula. Okay, that's we did already. We have done this before mid-semester exam. Okay. Any questions regarding the stiffness computation? And then after assembling the stiffness using this MCOT, we have done already. Okay. Before mid-semester exam, and then we will obtain this stiffness matrix. For the SMA, of course, what I mean with the global stiffness matrix, okay, structural stiffness matrix, I mean only for active degrees freedom. So this is like KAA in the DSM-P, okay? We get this. You obtain the stiffness matrix by assembling process. The same as in as 2D truss and also as in the spring mesh system, the same principles. So I don't have to talk anymore, right? But anyhow, please, if you have any questions regarding this. No questions? This matrix should be, of course, have positive diagonal. Then what else? Symmetric.
Singular.
What else? Not singular. Not singular. Because this is already we put the spot, right? Not singular. It means it has inverse. And the rank should be 6, of course. This is a matrix of 6 by 6. The rank should be 6. It means, what is rank? It means it has 6 independent rows or 6 independent columns. Okay. 6 independent columns and 6 independent rows. Why? Because the structure is stable and of course positive definite. Okay, that's the properties of the status matrix, right? Remember? Do you remember about that? So it's good check, right? You can check. If you do it with MATLAB, you can easily check. Well, this is without loadings. So the stiffness equations, the global stiffness equations is like this. Stiffness matrix, this one, times displacement factor. Of course, this is 6/1 equals to FA. What is FA? Applied nodal force or joint nodal force. The factor of joint nodal force. Is there any force here? No, right? So it should be 0 or 0. And then the influence of the deflection, spot deflection, that's F delta. This is called equivalent nodal loads. Equivalent nodal force factor due to spot movement or support settlement, like this. If we use the term in foundation engineering, okay, spot movement or settlement, delta, okay, because we have delta right here, it moves to here, downward in the direction of member number 5, in this direction, okay. Any questions up to this point? No questions? I hope all of you can get a high score in the remedy midterm exam, okay? Later, in the end of this month. Can you?
Amen, sir.
Okay. Hopefully, you will be able to achieve high score, right? Because otherwise, your score later will be, your grade will be not good. If the midterm exam is the score of midterm exam is like the what we have done before, right? The question is how to calculate F delta, okay? How about how to account for the deflections? This is the same as for 2D truss. We go back to element. Look at this element. Look at this joint. Which element is connected to this joint? Element number 1 at the right end, right? This is left at the right end. Element number 2 at the left end. Element number 3 at the left end. So we only need to consider 1, 2, and 5 in order to calculate F delta. Remember 1, 2, and 5. Okay. So let's go to before that, let's determine the factor of the displacements. Joint displacement. This is a factor, right? We have a factor in here. Factor delta. Now our first task is to express this factor delta, where the magnitude is delta, right? Is given a given number. In terms of the global components, that's in terms of the global coordinates, or IJK, right? We have IJK. IJK. What is IJK? Do you know it? Do you know them?
XYZ.
No. That's unit vector. No, that's unit vector. Unit basis vector. No, XYZ is axis. Axis. This is not axis, but vector, right? Unit vector in this one. I, this is J, this is K. Yes, they are parallel to X, Y, Z, but not the axis. Okay, this is unit basis vector. Okay, so we should express this vector in terms of the ijk. The question is how? Okay, please look at this vector. Because this is parallel, the vector of, let me call V5. V5 is the vector of the bar member 5. And then we calculate the direction cosines. How to calculate the direction cosines? As I mentioned before, the unit basis vector is V5 divided by its length. Okay, this is from mathematics 1. I thought about vector. That's the application of vector. Okay, so the concept of vector in 3D space is very important if you want to perform structural analysis in 3D space, not only for truss but also for frame. Okay, so this is the vector, the direction cosines. Okay, direction cosines for member number 5 is already calculated before because when we calculated the stiffness matrix for member number 5, we should know this one, right? Cx, Cy, Cz. This is called direction cosines. These three numbers called direction cosines. Okay, and I teach this in mathematics 1. Do you remember direction cosines in mathematics? Okay. Okay, so this is our vector delta, the displacement vector or the spot motion. The components, of course, the same as this one, except it's opposite because you know that the vector, this one is in this direction, right? But this in the opposite direction. So it should be minus something, minus this one. The direction is minus the unit vector. So it should be like this. Okay. So this is the direction from here, but minus. So this is negative 0.5 becomes 1/2, negative of this one, times delta, because this is unit vector, right? The direction cosine is unit vectors. The direction a vector whose components direction cosines is a unit vector. So this is a unit vector. This is actually, this one is the unit vector for member number this one. I mean this one. This is V5 hat minus V5 hat, okay, times delta. So this is the nodal displacement for joint number 2. But joint number 2 is which which components of degrees of freedom? Like, let's take a look at this picture. Oh, it's this component 2. In x direction is 2. In y direction is 3. In 4 direction is 4. So this is this one. Okay. Freedom passive 2, passive 3, and passive number 4. Any questions regarding this? It's a little bit difficult, but if you know about vector in 3D space, okay, it's application of vector actually, okay, application of vectors in mathematics. Any questions? No questions? Okay, from here, what should we do? So from here, we can determine the displacement of the displacement vector for element number 1. So this is referred to element number 1, right? Element number 1. Let's take a look at element number 1. Element number 1, on the left end, this is I call left end. Left, it means on the beginning of this coordinate. Right end here, okay. Right end, I means this is beginning, this is the end, right? If we have an arrow like this, the right end, this located at the right end. So this is here. It's this number should go to here. Okay, not in here. This is all 0 because it's inactive degrees freedom. Is it clear? Any questions? So we calculated the equivalent nodal force for element number 1 due to delta, due to the spot motion delta, is defined as minus the stiffness matrix of element number 1 times the delta 1. But we already calculated K1, right? So just we should identify this one from here. Just copy, plug in this into this one, okay? And then we get this. So this is the, what was this? Again, this is the equivalent nodal force vectors for element number 1 only. Any questions? 1 and then element number 2. Because element number 2 is connected, right? 1 already, number 2. But for number 2 is in the left end, in the beginning, right? Not in the end. In the beginning of this vector. So for the element number 2, it should be like this, okay? Copy to this one. Oh, I missed something. This should be delta, right? We have delta here. Sorry. Better I fix it now. It should have delta. Okay. Also here. Sorry. Here. No. Because we have delta here. We have delta here. Any questions?
Sorry, sir. What's the 0, 0, 0 represents in the vector? Like it's half and then minus
This,
what?
remember, this is what? This is
That's the
vector
deflection
of displacement for element number 2.
Yeah, element number 2.
But it's 6 by 1. The first 3 refer to what?
The first 3 is
join number
from
1.
join
Local number 1. This
okay.
is join number 2, local, right? So here for element number 2, look at the picture. What happened? This is element number 2. At the first join,
yes,
it's under cross deflection, right? This with the component this one. So given by this one. Given by this one. So just copy this one to this one. Okay?
Okay, and then the 0, 0, 0 represents for the node 3, I think. And
yes.
they
There
got
is no
deflections.
displacement, right? Here, right?
Yeah.
There is no prescribed displacement. This is 0, 0. This we put also 0 for temporary. No prescribed displacement, I mean.
Oh, so because we still don't, because it's not known
Yet no,
they
not
got
yet no.
deflection,
Yes.
so we plug in 0.
Yeah, plug in 0 because this is just for computation of the F delta, right?
I see. So although the node at node 3, it can
the actual is 0,
displace
but
on the x-axis, we still give it 0.
yes, all 0. So we even though the actual one is this is just for computation of F delta, no more than that. Okay, so we don't active degrees of freedom actually. or more precisely, we don't include the active degrees of freedom. Okay. Just like element number 5, you see this all 0, right? Because this is all active. Only include the inactive degrees of freedom. Okay. Look at this, all 0. Actually, this is 4, 5, 6 active, right? It's not 0 actually. But this active degrees of freedom here, we only include the inactive degrees of freedom.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, I think this is just matrix multiplication. We get this 1, 2, and 3. This is the equivalent nodal load factors or nodal force factors due to the presence of prescribed displacement or the spot movement delta, right? Here we have factor delta. Okay, again, our target is to calculate for the structure. So again, this is we use the M code to assemble the force here. So we assemble using M code for element number 1. This is from M code, right? We take this number, right? And then copy here. Number 1, number 2, number 3. And then just assemble. Assemble, it means this is copy. And then add if overlap. Just like that. We get this. Transpose, of course. This is transpose. I write in the row factor because to save the space. To save the space, okay? But actually this is a column factor. So use transpose to become a column factor. This is global. So this is F delta. This is for element. This is for structure. So this is the equivalent nodal, This one is the equivalent nodal force vector due to deflection for structure, right, at the structural level after we assemble. So just like we assemble the stiffness matrix, we also have to assemble the equivalent nodal force due to deflection. I think the same as I did in midterm exam, right? If you see my answer. Have you seen my answer? Exam answers? The same, right? The same principle. I did like this for 2D thrust as well. The same. So not different. The difficulty is how to obtain this one, right? A little bit difficult because it needs a factor concept. The rest, I think, the same. So it's good. The finite element is good. Why? Because even though different problems, later we will consider plane stress and plane strain problem, but the principles remain the same for solving the structure. Okay. This is what good about finite method. Okay, we already know this. This is 0, right? And then use Gauss elimination. Don't calculate manually. Okay, wasting time. Just use MATLAB or your Microsoft Excel. The worst thing is to use worst tool is to use algebraic calculator, because algebraic calculator is not so efficient. MATLAB is the most convenient, I think. So later, I think in your exam, I hope you can use MATLAB, okay, to save time. Then you get this. Okay, this is the answer. I use box. It means the answer. We get the displacement already. So to answer the first question, right? The question is the nodal displacement. Yes, that's the nodal displacement. And then what next? Just like in midterm exam, the next question is calculate the internal force, internal member axial force. What the axial force for each member, because that information is very useful for design. For example, if this is steel structures, you need this. Okay, you need these informations. While the support reaction is very useful for what? design of connections between the structure and the foundations or pedestals, if this is steel, right? Okay. So next. This, and after this, you get back to the elements. This is from structure to element. Using the information from what? M-code, yes. And also the information from prescribed displacement. Don't forget prescribed displacement. For example, from here, we know that this is 1, 2, 0, right? 1, 2, the M-code is like this. 1, 2, and then this one, the inactive degrees freedom, actually. The M-code for inactive degrees freedom. P1, P2, P3, P4. So, for 1, 2, and this is we copy from here. While the rest we copy from inactive degrees freedom. Right? This is 2, 3, 4. That's the prescribed displacement. From here. Delta, of course, in delta, okay? All in delta, because this is all in delta. That's the first element, second element, third element, fourth element, fifth, and sixth. So all we know the displacement factor, element nodal displacement factor. We all now know clearly. Okay, so from the global displacement, go back to local displacement factor. Any difficulties regarding this? How to get back? This is a kind of disassembling process. So we first assemble and then disassemble, okay? Going back to element. Please, if you have any questions. So this involves the information either from active degrees freedom and inactive degrees freedom, because we have P also. P is for the numbering system for inactive degrees freedom. And then the next step is what? We can calculate the N force, because from here we already know K, stiffness matrix for each element, element number 1 to 6. We already know the nodal displacement factor for each element. We can easily calculate the applied nodal force. And surprisingly, in this problem, actually not so surprise for me, okay? It's all zero. It means what? The motion of the spots doesn't induce any internal force, okay? And because of this, of course, the normal force all zero, right? From this, we can calculate the normal force using the transformation matrix, okay? Transformation matrix, okay? The theory is, you can see the theory again. How to, from here to here. We take a look at actually at these three numbers, right? And then use the direction cosine information to get the normal force for each element. And for this problem, all are zero. Also, because of the N member forces, N naught member forces all are zero, of course the support direction also zero. The question is why all zero? Can you give me answer? Why for this problem? All the answers for internal force and support direction are zero. The answer is what?
There is no external forces, sir?
No, not because of this. You see in mid-semester exam for the case 2, even though there is no external forces, but there a big member forces, right? If you did it, if you calculated it in mid-semester exam. But here, no. But thank you for the answer. Not because of no external force. Prescribed or foundation settlement, here is a foundation, right? Foundation settlement may cause big problem to structures because the structure become cracked and so on. But here, no. For what reason? Anyone know? This is because the structure is statically determinate. For statically determinate, when there is support movement, there is no internal force. Okay. So that's a good thing about statically determinate structures, right? It's robust to support movement. They only move, but doesn't induce any stress inside. So this is called when there is move. Yes, there is motion, but the motion is so-called is rigid body motion. Just move without any deformation or any strain energy inside. Okay. So that's the reason why it's all zero, right? Because all the members move as rigid body and the structure also move as a rigid body because the reason is the structure is statically determinate. Okay, that's all about the direct status method. We have discussed application of the DSM for spring system, truss 2D and 3D. And the same principle will be always used in the finite element, okay? Computations for computer implementation of the finite element. Direct status method is computer implementation of the finite element method, okay? So please be familiar with this if you learn finite element method. In the past, when I thought it's already familiar with one, so I go directly to formulation, finite element formulation. But what happened? Some students still confused about the DSM. So, okay, I should teach about the. Actually, the DSM should be familiar first before learning finite element. Okay, should be very familiar with this, and then we can learn finite element more comfortably. Any questions? Okay, you will have exam. I already posted the what assignment, right? Oh, the assignment is used also a computer program. So this is the MATLAB. As I mentioned before, all of the finite element is directed for computer implementation. So I implemented the DSM for 3D truss also in MATLAB. Okay, the logic is like this, or the algorithm is like this. Start. It means we have to prepare the data. Okay, what data? Geometrical data. It means the coordinates, connectivity, material properties. Okay, material data, and then loading data. The loading can be loads, force, can be prescribed displacement, or later can be temperature. Okay, can be temperature, but later. And then the program will read and prepare the data for subsequent analysis. And then assembly the stiffness, nodal force factors, okay? And then if there is any force at the joints, apply it, and then solve the equations, and then compute the internal forces, support reactions, and then plot the results, and then finish. That's the logic of the computer that I developed in my book. Okay, let's take a look at the MATLAB now. We are going to solve this problem, right? This is a tower. Can you see my screen? Okay. Hello?
Yes, sir.
This is a tower like this. Okay, let me go. Make it full screen again. quite complicated. 2-story towers. Totally we have 25, but still tower. The members, the numbering is not so clear. Maybe we have 1, 2, but this is the grouping of the cross-null area. We have member 1 to 25. This is the area, right? The numbers is in here. Maybe more clear it's in here, right? We have number 1. Where is 2? Member number 2. I cannot see here. Here, 2. The diagonal. Okay. 3. So this is member number 1. 2 to 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. The diagonal, right? The bracing. Like bracing, okay? And then 6 to 9. 6 to 9 is this one. 6, 7, 8, 9. And then 10 to 11, this one. 10, 11, 12, 13, yes. And then another group is 14, 17. 14, 17. And then 18 to 21. Okay, this is. And then 25 to, the last is 25, this one, right? Okay, this is the tower made from steel. You know the steel, the molecular elasticity is given by this one, 200,000 megapascal. And then this is the details. This is the coordinate, x, z, y, z. This is the length, 200 inch, 100 inch, 100 inch, 25 inch. And then what else? The loads, the loadings. How about the loadings? The loadings at joint 1, 2, 3, 6. 1, 2, 3, and 6. This is the direction of the loads. Okay, so I can draw like this, the loadings. At joint number 1. Joint number 1 is this one. It's 1. In 1 is in x direction, right? X is this one. So this one. 1. And then y is this direction, is 10. And then z directions, it's minus, it means downward. So at node 1, at node 2, node 2 is this one, also this one, in y direction. Okay, this is 10. And then node 3, where is 3? This one, right? It's x direction only. Small load. 0.5. And node 6, 0.6. It's a little bit unsymmetric, right? This is the loadings. The question is, please determine the member forces. Okay. Okay, of course, if this problem, if you have to calculate this problem manually, you will die. No time, right? No time. So use my program. It's given for you for free, okay? For free, you don't need to pay to me. Don't worry, okay? So if you have a tower project, you may use my program to calculate the internal force. You don't have to pay to me. It's free. It's good, right? The result will be like this. You will have the internal force. The red one is compression. The blue one is tension. This is the support reactions. Okay? That comes from the program I wrote in MATLAB. Okay? Just like SAP 2000, right? Okay, let's take a look in details. How about this program? Okay. It's the program of bab 4 or chapter 4. Okay. The main program is I code This one. Bab 4, Trust A. Okay, so this is the main program. Not this one, okay. Okay, and then the input file is where? The input file. The input file is, I forgot already. Let me see my book. But maybe because there are many already here. Trust. Oh, trust war here. Trust war in MATLAB. The input file in MATLAB. Okay. Here. Trust war. Can you see my screen? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this program that I developed is very special because you can solve either 1D bar, 2D trust, just like midterm exam. You can check your midterm exam, use this program, okay? And 3D trust using, I developed this program using the SMA. So it's very efficient, okay? You can compare with SEP 2000. It's very fast. Even though the problem very big, maybe you have the real structure, maybe how many the towers, for example, very tall towers, no problem. You can use this program, okay? And then 3D trust this problem, okay? And then I don't want to plot before, this is just for checking, okay? Plot unimportant. I think the important thing is this one. This is the coordinate data, okay? This is the coordinate data. So there are 10 nodes, as you can see from the slides. There are 10 nodes, right? 1, 2, up to 10 here, okay? Maybe, yes, up to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Only 10 nodes, not so many, right? So this is the coordinates in millimeter, not in inch, because we are in Indonesia, right? The original is inch. And then material, all steel. So this is E, in kilonewton per millimeter or gigapascal, okay? This is the cross-sectional area. How many groups? There are 8 groups, right? Because we see we have 8 groups here, 8 groups of area. Okay, each member has different cross-sectional area. Not all different, but have groups, 8 groups of members, steel members. Then element connectivity, we have 25. This is should be input carefully. Okay. So this is the connectivity 1, 2. For example, element 1 is 1, 2, and so on. Okay. This is referred to what? Material properties, of course. This number 1. 2 up to 5. 2 up to 5. This 2, right? Group 2. Then 6 to 9, group 3. This one. Group 4. Group 5. 6, 7, 8. So there are 25 members, but they are grouped into 8 different members, different cross-sectional area. Any questions up to this point? How to give the input data? And then boundary conditions or spot conditions at node 7, 8, 9, 10. That's this foundation, right? These foundations all are hints, 3D hints, so it all are lock. One it means lock with prescribed displacement 0. There is no support movement. Of course, if there is support movement, you can input some numbers in here. So my program is very special. It's quite complete, except maybe the temperature. Okay, I not yet included the temperature here. The influence of temperature, but you can develop by yourself. Okay, so after finishing the finite element course, actually you are able to write yourself your computer program. Okay, if you have time, of course. So not always depend on commercial program like ETABS or SAP. We can make by ourselves this program, okay? Because all the commercial programs develop based on finite element as well. Finite element. So finite element is the practical method in computer, right? And then the force, we give the input to node 1, 2, 3, 6 as given in this data. 1, 2, 3, 6. Oh, maybe I don't know why it's different. Maybe this is in kips, right? Kips. This is in kilonewton. 1 kips is what? 1 kips is 4.48 kilonewton. Please be careful with unit. This is because use American unit, right? British units. This is I use in SI, Standard International units. Kilonewton in meter. So be careful with units if you perform design. It's very careful. You have to be very careful. I mean, otherwise your design will be in, maybe in great error. Okay. And then let's run the program. How to run? First, just write the input data here. It's very easy, right? Bab 4, because this is I took from my book. In my book is bab 4. Okay. And then just type the name of the program. That's bab 4. Pass. Hit direct fitness method with a priori boundary conditions. And let's go. Okay, writing results to Excel. Okay, you can see the deform shape. That's automatic like this. Where is the picture? Oh, here it is. Can you see? Maybe, here it is. So the deform, undeform, it seems that the deformation mostly on the top only, top part only. The deformation at the lower part is almost no deformations, okay? For this tower. And then the axial force. Okay? And so on, okay? If you want to check the rank, for example, I want to check the rank of the stiffness matrix. How to do that? We have stiffness matrix actually, but the format of stiffness matrix is sparse. So it's 18 by 18. This is K, but K of the DSM A should be, the rank is not, it's not singular. Okay, let's check it. So to check it first, we should make it full. The stiffness matrix, let's say K, is the full version of the A stiff. I have to make it full because the MATLAB store the data of the stiffness matrix in another format, okay, in here to save the memory. Okay, full. Now the rank will be 18. Okay, rank will be 18. Okay, as expected. And does it positive definite? For sure should be. Otherwise the structure is unstable. Okay, how to check whether it's positive definite? Use the fastest way is to use Cholesky decomposition. Okay, remember? Cholesky. Okay. Let's give it to, for example, C like that, or M like that, Cholesky. No need to see the results. Okay, it works. If MATLAB can perform Cholesky decomposition, it means the matrix positive definite. Otherwise, will be in error, right? Because Cholesky decomposition is like taking a square root. We only can take the square root of positive number. For matrix, we can only take the square root, just like Cholesky decomposition is if positive definite. Okay, any questions so far? About 3D truss, are you ready for the exam? Don't worry, I will not make this problem in exam, okay? Don't worry. Because this is too complicated, right? Agree? Or is it simple? I don't know. Any comments? Any questions?
Not yet, sir.
Okay. If you use SAP 2000, please notice that there is no special element for truss, but you have to use frame, right? And then you should modify the frame. How to modify? Just put the section properties J. J is the torsional constants, okay? And the moment of inertia in three direction, about the three direction, and the moment of inertia in two direction, all zero. Or alternatively, release the bending rotations at the ends and the torsional rotation R1 at one end only. Don't release two. It make the structure unstable. Okay, this if you use SAP 2000. I think almost every software, commercial software, has truss or frame elements in general. Okay. So that's all. Finish about directives method. Now I'm going to move to another topic. The first part of my lecture, I emphasize to directives method, but now I'm going to emphasize to the formulation of the finite element method. So different emphasis. Okay, so the model that I use is first is one-dimensional bar element, bar model. Okay, axial deformation of bar model, and then later for 2D, I'm going to use the plane strain or plane stress model to explain the finite element. Okay, the formation of the finite element. Only using the simplest element. For the bar, I just use the two-node bar element, two-noded bar element. That's actually become the element that we already know. And for the later for plane stress or plane strain problems, I'm going to use the three-node triangular element. Okay, so that's the simplest element for this introductory level. Later, if you want in your postgraduate education, master degree or doctoral degree, you can learn more sophisticated elements. But here I just introduce you to the formulation of the finite element. Just introduction, right? Okay. In this introduction, I'm going to use what so-called the principle of virtual approach. But before going into the details of this lecture, let me take a rest moment and then please fill in the attendance list. Is this Miss Angeline usually?
Yes, sir.
Okay, please. I take rest moment. Okay, are you ready? Ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, here we go. So far, we have derived the spring, bar element series equations. How? By directly applied the physical laws. This is called direct approach. In particular, we apply the Hooke's law, that's the constitutive equations, and force equilibrium law to obtain the stiffness equations. For more complex finite elements, however, we may not be able to formulate using this direct approach. So we have to turn to another systematic approach for obtaining the discrete equations or the stiffness equations, right? Well, our concern is structural mechanics. In structural mechanics, the commonly used methods to obtain the stiffness equation are we can either use the principle of minimum potential energy or we can use the principle of total work. In this lecture, I choose the second one. Okay, of course, I can choose the first one. It works equally well, but I have to choose one, right? Because we don't have time to talk both. But I choose the second one because I think it's more general. Okay, principle of total work or virtual displacement. Okay, the principle of virtual displacement. Okay, both method can be used both method can be used to formulate the finite element equally well, but I have to choose, and I choose in this course the second one. Okay, let's now take a look at a bar problem. Again, go back to the bar problem, okay? Let's say we have a bar, don't have to be prismatic. It means the bar can be a little bit tapered, but not too tapered. Because if too tapered, this theory will not be applicable. Okay, a little bit tapered is okay. Okay, and then let's say the bar have the length L, cross-sectional area A. It means if we cut and then here the cross-sectional A, but don't have to be prismatic. It means can have different modulus plasticity E. We assume that it's homogeneous along the thickness of the bar, but don't have to be homogeneous along the bar. Okay, and then now in addition, we will consider also the effect of temperature. So another important physical properties that we should include is the coefficient of thermal expansion alpha. Okay, so this is the parameter of the structures L, A, E, and alpha. Let's say the structure is subjected to here A, E, and alpha don't have to be constants. It means they may vary along the bar. It means maybe here is different. It means, in other words, the A, E, and alpha may function in general function of X. Okay, X is the coordinates. Let's say the 0 in here, the origin of coordinate here. So it can be in general function of coordinates. And then let's say the bar is subjected to force. This is axial distributed force. I think this is not yet included in the previous one, but here is I include this one now. Axial distributed load. The unit, of course, this is force per unit length, and then concentrated force at the right end, for example, and then also the temperature change, T degrees Celsius. Please notice this is not the temperature of the bar, but the temperature change. It means like this. For example, initially in the undeformed state, let's say the bar has a temperature of, let's say, 20 degrees Celsius. And then it changed after deformation to 25. It means T is 5 degrees, okay? That's the temperature change, not the absolute temperature. That's the temperature change. Please notice this is not absolute temperature, okay? Under this external actions, loads and temperature, what happened? The bar undergoes deformations, and we assume that here we only notice the axial deformations, okay, not the bending deformations. We assume that we only consider the axial deformation, because if we consider bending deformation, we need another theory. That's beam theory, okay? This is not beam, but just axial deformation of the bar. That's the limitation of our model now, okay? So to describe the deformation, for example, initially the bar is like this. After the loadings, it becomes like this, okay? Become longer, for example, okay? Of course, its point, if, for example, if original in here is become after deformation not longer in here, for example, in here. So this deformation is completely described by U. U is the displacement of cross-section, okay? This is cross-section. This is the displacement of the cross-section. U at what? At the coordinate of X here, okay? X from here to here. So it means the motion of the cross-section at any points. That's U, a function of X. So displacement of any cross-section at any points, at any position, X. This is called displacement field. This function is called displacement field or displacement function, okay? So this becomes the primary variable in our model, because this is the variable that describe the deformations, U at any point, okay? Well, the problem is like this. Given all of this, it means the geometry, material, loadings, please compute or determine or find the displacement field. How to do that? We need equations that relates the external force to the displacement field, of course. We need equations. Well, in structural mechanics and in theory of structural mechanics, Basically, we have three different equations. The first one is kinematic equations. This equation relates the strain and displacement components. The second one is constitutive equations. In this case, we use Hooke's law, okay, that relates the stress and strain. Third one is force equilibrium equations that describes the condition of equilibrium. So like in our country, we have Pancasila, right? That the 5 basic principles of the life of the people of this country, Indonesia. In structural mechanics, we have not 5, but 3, at least 3 basic principles: kinematic, constitutive, and equilibrium. Okay, 3 sila, okay, not Pancasila. Okay, let's go one by one. I'm going to talk kinematic equations. Kinematic equations, we want to have a relationship between the displacement U, okay, displacement U, and the strain. Okay, let's take a look at the bar segment between the cross-sectional at position X and X plus delta X. And then here, the blue one. And then I draw the free body diagram and magnify it. Let's say the length is from here to here, delta X, right? The length of this bar segment. These cross sections, the displacement of the cross section is Ux, while the displacement of the right cross section is U X plus delta X. Okay. Let's calculate the strain. The strain happens at this bar segment. The average strain is the difference in displacement. That's the difference in displacement divided by the original line. Agree? Because by definition, the axial strain is the elongation of the bar segment. That's the elongation is U minus U on the right minus U on the left, right, divided by the original length. We refer to the original length before deformation data. This is before deformation. Okay. After deformation, we have some length increment. That's the length increment. This is the average strain because we not yet take the limit. To obtain the strain, we take the limit now. Make this bar segment very small. It means we take very small bar segment. Take the limit. Yeah, mathematically, we say that we take the limit of this one as delta x approaching 0. And if you learn calculus, you know what's this? Is the definition of derivatives, right? Derivatives. So the strain is the first derivative of the displacement. Okay, that's the kinematic equations. Any questions? In other words, if we know the displacement field, we can easily compute the strain by differentiating it by taking the derivative. Please, if you have any questions, don't be too quiet. I'm afraid you will be sleepy. Is it easy or difficult? Or still don't understand? Not understand yet? Please give me comments. Also to check the internet.
Trying to understand, sir.
Okay, good. Actually, not so difficult, right? Kinematic equation is the relation between U and epsilon. Okay, the second equation, what? The second sila, okay. Second basic principle. Positive equations, yes. Here, I want to include the effect of temperature, okay. the strain consists of two parts. If we have a bar and the bar is free to move and then undergoes temperature increment, let's say from 0 to 5 or 0 to 10, that's T, right? And then there will be strain. I call the thermal strain, okay, due to temperature increment, epsilon 0. The strain is given by alpha times temperature. Alpha is the coefficient of thermal expansion. Alpha times T. That's the strain. And then that's due to temperature. But if there is temperature and there is loads, of course, the strain consists of two parts. The strain due to temperature due to external loads, epsilon P. Okay. Please notice when the bar is not restrained, it means free to move. The thermal strain, yes, the bar will expand, as we can expect if this is steel and then we make it hotter, it will expand. But how about the stress inside? Is there any stress? No, right? No stress, only strain. In other words, the stress or the strain that induces stress that will have stress is the total strain minus the temperature strain. Okay, it's epsilon minus alpha T. So this is the stress that induces stress. In other words, we can modify the Hooke's law. What is Hooke's law? Hooke's law is the relation, give the relation between the deformation we measure in terms of strain and stress, but here including temperature effect. So it's a simple modification, right? Initially, if without temperature effect, just like this. This is Hooke's law. With temperature effect, this is become like this. Simple modification. This is called Hooke's law for the bar undergoing temperature change. Any questions? So we have the second equation already. Simple, right? Okay, if we draw the stress and strain relationship, for example, this is the x-axis is epsilon, the y-axis is sigma, and then this is like a function, right? Imagine in mathematics, if this is x, in this case is epsilon, it is this y, in this case is sigma axis. This is just like y equals e x minus a constant, right? Sub-constant like that. This is e x minus another constant, right? So this is the slope, right? The slope of the graphs, of course, a line like this. You know, this is linear function. So the graph is aligned like this. And actually, the modulus of elasticity is the slope of this line. And this line intersects the epsilon axis when sigma is equal to 0, right? When sigma equals 0, the strain is this one, epsilon T. Okay, let me write here. So when this is the case when sigma equals 0, E epsilon minus E alpha T. So E alpha T, right? So this is E epsilon equals E alpha T. In other words, epsilon, this is called epsilon due to temperature. epsilon due to temperature only, alpha T, right? And then when the strain is 0, here the strain is 0, of course the sigma become minus E alpha T. Okay. So this is the stress, initial stress, the stress at undeformed state. If we, in other words, if we have a bar and then we restrain, we fix both end, this is the, and then the temperature increase, we will have the stress like this. Okay, that's the constitutive equations described by these graphs. Any questions so far? So this is the graphs, a linear, because the relation between stress and strain are linear. Okay, if the strain increase, the stress increase. But if the strain less than epsilon T, the stress will be negative. Okay, if there is no enough strain, it means if we restrain, when the bar is become hotter, there will be some negative stress. It means compression, right? Compression. This is tension. This is axial stress. Okay, axial stress, axial strain. Okay, the third basic principles, that's equilibrium equations. Again, let's take a look at the bar segment, but this time I draw the stress at the left cross section, directed let's say that the bar segment in the condition of tension. Let's say the stress here sigma x, the stress in here sigma x plus delta x, and there is the axially distributed force, the average of which is this one. So this is the average axial force, axial distributed force in this bar segment. Let's take the equilibrium equations. It means the sigma times the area, okay, on the right, this one, minus the sigma times the area become the force, right? Because this is normal force. Actually, this one is normal force on the right end. This is minus this one is the normal force on the left end, plus this delta x. Okay, is it clear? So the force on the right end minus the force on the left end plus the external force equals to 0, and then let's divide it by delta x. This is normal force divided by delta x, become this one. Okay, and then let's take the limit as the length of the bar segment very small. In mathematics, we take like this limit. But what's this? It's nothing but the definition of the derivative of normal force with respect to x. Or briefly, I can write this using comma notation. Comma, it means this one, okay? So this is the third equation. Well, it's good that now we have the three equations. Okay. Let's now combine the three equations. Combine. First, let's consider equation number 2. Equation number 2 is the Hooke's law, right? Hooke's law is sigma E epsilon minus alpha T. This is the Hooke's law, and then multiply by the corresponding area. Or we may say that what is normal force? Actually, if we we can say normal force by definition is the integral of sigma x or sigma here dA, integral over the cross-null area. We have cross-null area, right? This is the bar. This is the cross-null area. This is delta x. This is cross-null area. Over the R is cross-null area. That's the stress, but we assume that the stress is the distribution is constant. So this is just sigma A, okay, sigma A. So we multiply with the A, cross-null area, like this, okay. Actually integration. Actually we integral this dr, integral this dr, but equally we can regard it as like this, okay. So what's this? Is the definition of the normal force, okay. Any questions? So this is from constitutive equations and then multiplied by A. Next, and then we obtain normal force. Next, we plug in this normal force into this one. Okay. We have this one. We plug in into, but what is epsilon? Epsilon is this one, right? U dx. After this, we plug in this into the equilibrium equations, and then we get this. So this is equation that combine all of the three. This is complete equations because we combine all of the three basic equations. We may say this is the equations for the bar deformation model, axial deformation bar model. Okay, the governing equations for bar differential, governing equation for deformation of the bar axial model, axial deformation bar model. Okay, this is very general, but when the bar is made from A, alpha, and all are constants, we may simplify the equation into these equations, okay? So this is for the case when all of them are constants along the bar. We will have these equations. Any questions? So in conclusion, combining three of the equations, we may say that the governing equations for the axial deformation of the bar is given by these equations in the interior of the bar, because we take this equation based on interior, right? Interior point, because we take cross section here, right? Small cross section. So this is applicable for interior. Interior, it means for x greater than 0 and less than what? L, okay? This is applicable for this one in the interior of the bar. So this is, we may say this is the equilibrium equations inside the bar, okay? Because here we see that we can connect the external action with the external force and the displacement. But this is not yet complete. Why? What kind of equation is this? What is given, what is unknown in here? Please notice carefully. The given one, of course, this one, right? Let me use green color. This is given. Oh, not so good. Green, maybe use what color? Okay, dark blue. Okay, dark blue. This is given, right? This is given. This is given. We know this is a function, either a function or a number, depend on the problem. This is given. Either a function or a number, depend on the problem. So in general, can be a function of x. But what is unknown? The only unknown is what? Can you give me answer?
Displacement.
Come on. Are you sleeping? Yes, the only unknown is the red one. I should use red circle here. Here the only unknowns. The displacement field. So, what kind of equation is this? Is this algebraic equations? No, this is a differential equation, right? How many orders? What order of this differential equation? Second order, because it involves the second derivatives. So this is second order differential equation governing this bar equation. That's we can use to find first the displacement, and then once we know the displacement, we can use kinematic equations to obtain the strain, right? Kinematic equation to obtain strain. And once we know the strain, we can use what? Constitutive equation to find the stress. Okay, so that's the way we solve the problem. First, we solve for the displacement, and then later strain, and then stress. Okay. Any questions? Before we go to an example. Let's take a look at this simple example. Tapered bar. Okay, tapered. Why is called tapered? Because the cross section here, let's say, is 3 unit. The unit is A0 or A0. Okay, A sub 0. While the cross section area here is 1 A0. So it's from 3 to 1. It's a linear distribution of the cross-section, linear variation of the cross-sectional area. This called tapered bar, right? Let's say the bar is, the length is LT like this, and then subjected to force. This is given. Force, this is unknown support traction. We pretend unknown, even though directly we know, right? This is should be minus F. But we pretend don't know at this moment. The problem is what? Given all of this, please calculate or find the displacement. After the displacement, we expect we can find strain and stress fields. And then after we develop the finite element, of course, we can compare also later with the finite element solution. But let's focus on this first, okay? Maybe I should... actually, we already know the finite element solution before, right? Because when we talk about bar, we already solved this problem, right? At that time, we simplify the model becomes to prismatic bar. But this time, we will try to find the exact solution of this bar. How to do that? Okay. First, write the governing equations for this bar. Okay. In this case, well, the differential equation is like this. Let me write the differential equations. ddx, the derivative of E, A, U dx minus alpha t, okay, plus P equals 0. But in this case, P is 0. There is no axial force like this. Okay, this is P0. So there is no this one. We can remove. And there is no temperature change. We assume that from undeformed to deformed, the temperature remain the same. So this will be 0, right? So the equations become this one. Is it clear? Any questions up to this point? Okay, I can erase. So that's the governing differential equations for this bar. Well, what is A in here? A is not a number because it's the cross-null varies along the bar. It's a function, right? And the function is given by this one because at the beginning is 3. When x0 is 3, right? It's correct, 3. But when x is L or LT is 1. And this is the function, linear function. So the cross-null varies linearly. Please, if you have any questions regarding these statements, differential equations, but A here is this one. And this not enough to solve the problem because this is applicable only at the interior of the beam. How about at the boundaries here? At the boundaries, what happened? The displacement at the boundary between U at x equals 0 here is 0. This is called boundary condition, right? How about this in this? What boundary condition? The force or normal force. So the boundary condition at the right. The normal force at x equal LT is, what is the normal force here? Is tension, right? F. F is given number. For example, 1 kilonewton, for example. Okay, it's given number. This is given, right? Given. So these are boundary conditions. We have two different boundary conditions. This is involving the primary variable. This is called the essential boundary conditions, or displacement boundary conditions, or geometric boundary conditions, or Dirichlet boundary conditions, okay? Dirichlet. In mathematics, we call Dirichlet boundary conditions. And these force boundary conditions, called also mechanical or natural boundary condition, and also called Neumann boundary condition. This is Dirichlet is the name of the mathematician, German. Also, this is German mathematician. So this is boundary conditions. So this is the complete governing equations. These are the complete governing equations. The differential equation plus boundary conditions. We need two boundary conditions because this is second order differential equations. Okay. And then the subsequent task is how to solve these differential equations using calculus, using our knowledge of differential equations. Well, this is the derivative of something is 0. So this something should be what? Now we are going to solve this one. This is the derivative of something should be 0. This something should be, must be a constant, okay? Because derivative of constant is 0, right? But we still not yet known. The constant is not yet known, okay? So it's called arbitrary constant or integration constants because actually we integrate this. But we can know the constants, unknown constants from the boundary conditions. The boundary condition says that at the right end or at x equal L, this, as you can see here, this should be F. So what is C? It should be F, right? Because this at XL is F. So this also, because constants, it should be F. So the constant is F. So we can conclude that the solution is this one. For this one. So we have AE du dx equals F. Actually, this is normal force, right? AE du, the normal force is equal F. It's quite clear. The next step is, well, AE du dx equal F, or du dx is F divided by AE. But what is A? A is this one, right? Or 3 minus A0, 3 minus 2 x over LT. Okay, this one. And then let multiply by LT on the numerator and denominator by LT, and then we get this. And then integrate. This is constants. We can put outside the constants. F is constants. LT A naught E. Integrate this one. Okay. Integration of this is multiplication multiply by LT. We get this one, right? LT is constants. We can put outside the integrals. Put outside the integrals. Du dx is equal to this. So U is integration of this. Okay. So U is integration of this. The integration of 1 over something is logarithm natural or natural log of this one times minus 1 over this one, 1 over this one, okay? Plus another constants, integration constants. Is it clear? So the integrals of this is natural log plus another constants. This is still unknown constants. How to get these constants? We apply another boundary conditions. The boundary condition is at the left end, x0. At the left end, we see that here, u is equal to 0. Just x put here. This is logarithm natural, 3LT minus 1/2 I put in front here, plus C2. And this at x0, okay, is equal to 0. From this, we get the equations. So this should be 0, right? Because this is not 0. This is force, the length, area, and E not 0. It's positive number or negative number, depend on the F. This should be 0. So from here, we get C2, right? That's 1/2 natural log 3LT. So we know C2, we get this one, right? The displacement. This is the constants, and then we put it nicely like this. Because this is 2, we can put here 2, and then this is ln 3LT minus ln 3LT minus 2x, or we can put like this. This is applicable in the interior and also at the boundary because we include the boundary now. So it's applicable for all points of the bar. Okay, this is the solution for the displacement. Any questions so far? So we get these equations. Okay, this one. Please, if you have any questions. No questions? So far, so good? Okay, once you know the displacement field, how to calculate the strain? Just use kinematic equations that the derivative of this one. If you calculate the derivative, you will obtain this one. Okay, this is the solution for the strain, and then the stress from Hooke's law, sigma A epsilon, we get this one. Okay, so this the complete solutions: displacement field, strain field, and stress field. We can plot this in graphs, okay, like this. No. Later, what's the use of this? This displacement we can compare with our finite element solution before when we discuss bar, right? Recall that when we discuss bar, we also solve the same problem, okay, like this, and then we can compare with the finite element solution. Okay, but it seems the time is up now. I have to finish the lecture. However, if you have any questions, still have any question, please. This is just description of bar problem, right? We have governing equations. And then using the governing equations, for bar is not too difficult to solve to get the exact solution using simple calculus. But this is not our main topic, because our main topic is we want to solve the bar problem, but not use simple calculus, but not use calculus, not use mathematics, but use finite elements. Okay. For this bar problem, we have done this already, right? We have done this before when we talk about 1D bar before. And then later we will compare the exact and finite element solutions. Come on, any questions? Did I teach you too fast? No? No comments? Sleepy already?
Still trying to understand, sir.
Still try to figure out what is this,
Yeah.
okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. It's the deformation of the bar, okay?
Okay, sir.
This is the strain, this is stress. The important one in design, of course, the stress, okay? As function of x, function of x, all function of x. This is just calculus, right? This is governing equation. From this, we can use calculus, integral calculus, or the theory of differential equation, and then we get this simple problem, right? Just need a little bit calculus. Okay, thank you. I think that's all today. Please do your homework, because the deadline is next week for 3D Trust, and also that's for preparation for your good preparation. If you do your homework seriously, I believe you will get high score in midterm exam. But if you do the homework lazily, just for formality like that, you just submit, I think you will have problem in the midterm exam, okay? Because that's about 3D Trust. See you next week.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.